broadcasting live each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. from Fishbowl Studios.
Log on to hear us speaking the facts on current events, family, and finances.
So be sure to log on each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to catch Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR.
Tune in.
So let them join. So what's up, y'all? What's up? This is Speaking of Facts with Charlie and JR. And of course, I am JR. At least I was the last time I checked. And of course, this is my lovely daughter and co-host Charlie sitting next to me. So this is different. We usually have the guest in the middle, but our esteemed guest said, let's do something different. And so it's looking good though. I'm liking it. You know.
I like the style.
Yeah. You know, and I haven't sat next to her in about a week or so.
Right.
You know, so. But it's all good, and we thank y'all for hanging out with us. We thank you for supporting us. We are back. I'm going to go ahead and quickly get the housekeeping out of the way. Speaking of Facts with Charlie and JR is brought to you by Kiss Wealth Now.
Hey, y'all.
It is your one-stop shop for
right.
commercial and residential real estate. If you need to buy real estate, if you need to sell real estate, if you need to rent, whatever you need, she's got you
covered. We're gonna meet you where you're at.
And
yes.
and I always had to brag on her. Last year, she was number 6 in the whole state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that lets you know that she's taking care of business. So tell them how to get Kiss Wealth Now, Charlie.
Well, I sure will. So you can go to my website 24/8. Okay, it's available all the time. KissWealthNow.com altogether, or you can feel free to call me 214-738-4913. We definitely want to help you have a custom experience, and that means that we're going to tailor everything to fit your family's needs.
There you go. Once again, 214-738-4913, KissWealthNow.com.
That's right.
Go there, check it out. You will be glad that you did. Mm-hmm. Also, get the rest of it out of the way. I will mention our alter egos, the Speaking of Facts crew. I am, of course, don't call it the fly guy and the fly girl. So I am, don't call it a comeback because I've been fly.
That's right.
And we got Fly Money over here.
Right here, yes.
The third member of the Speaking of Facts crew is Kim, our producer, who is out, but she's got our back. And I'm working on this young man over here. See, and I said young man,
yes,
being the fourth member of the crew.
Younger.
He's
Oh yeah.
See,
yeah.
She didn't waste no time.
Just a little bit.
She didn't waste no time getting the old joke in. Her jab is still sharp.
That's right.
But the fourth member, but our guest tonight, Teton Moffitt. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. It's a pleasure to be here. As always, it's always good to come on board and have some candid, honest conversations. So
yes,
I appreciate the invite.
Transparency.
That's right. Our tagline is thought-provoking conversations, and
yes.
we definitely want to provoke some thought tonight. So and I thought that we would, with the current climate that we are in,
mm-hmm.
I thought that we would just talk about black and brown skinned people, our people, our involvement or lack thereof in politics.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot of people saying things like, I don't fool with politics and I don't vote if I don't have a dog in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I just want to mention is how many people had to die for all of us to have the right to vote, regardless
mm-hmm.
of skin color, regardless of whether you're male or female, because the women's suffrage movement, women couldn't vote either. You know what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of people that had to fight and even die for us to have the right to go to the polls and vote. And the other thing that kind of, if I can use the cowboy term, kind of chaps my hide, is just people saying I don't fool with the government. Well, if ghettos exist on purpose, they exist because there's no funding to bring them up to another standard. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get funding for those places and cease them being ghettos and bring them up to a better standard mm-hmm. if we are not involved politically.
Absolutely.
That's where the funding comes from. So that's kind of where I wanted to start this conversation, you know, and you know, I just kind of wanted to get, you know, get thoughts, you know, on how you see us today and how you would like to see us in the future, you know.
Right. You want to go first? Okay. So I was actually having a conversation earlier, and I've been saying this here the last couple of weeks. I think that we come after the fact on a lot of things when it comes to politics. You know, there's a problem. We come we're not in the forefront bringing it. We're trying to come to it after the fact. And you talk about, you know, the government people don't want to be involved in it, but we talk about the, you know, obviously the hoods that are there. We're policed by the government. And so a lot of times, you know, people may not feel like they have a voice in it, but if you're being policed by it, you know, we should be able to start at those lower levels. And a part of the issue, I believe, in our community, which again, it goes up, it shouldn't have to trickle down, it really should be going up, is that, you know, when we are met with that adversity, we may take it out on one another versus maybe calling in and getting help, that someone who could maybe help us, who could maybe de-escalate, and not in every situation, but could potentially de-escalate the situation. So my, you know, watching what's happening in our climate with our youth, you know, and us wanting to coexist, you know, with everyone, and not realize that we are black. You know what I mean? You know, there's just that's local. You know, and we've got to, you know, make sure that we understand how we are seen and approach it that way, so therefore we can get what we can lead the change versus coming on the backside of it.
Right. Yeah. This is a very strong conversation for many who've been in the fight for a very long time, in respect to those elders and, of course, you know, those who went out and participated in the process. What we're looking at now, in my opinion, is just a level of disinterest, people are dissatisfied with the conditions. And it's always been a conversation. We've been having these conversations probably before I was even born.
Right.
And we keep putting ourselves in situations where we're so heavily focused on what's happening in the presidential elections. And I think there's a generation that are just totally disconnected to what's happening locally.
Right.
And so to your point earlier, when you hear people say, well, I don't care about the process, I don't care that my vote don't count, and all these kinds of commentary, well, how do you make a difference in the community that you live in if you know more about the presidential election and you don't know what's happening in the economic status of your own community? Why is it so important to be on the internet and be concerned about what's happening nationally when we have to put our hands to the plow and look at the land base of where we are? Is it just about our ethnicity? Or is it about bringing our communities together and strengthening our communities? And that has to start internally.
Right.
You know, because I just believe a lot of us have operated in survival mode.
Yes.
And you know what survival mode looks like, right? I gotta have it now.
Yeah.
I gotta keep, you know, and so whoever's gonna looks like me, I'm gonna vote for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so those conversations have to be addressed, because we have to really look at where our cities or our communities are really going politically. Everything is not on the internet, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
we have to get involved, and I think that a lot of it is a lack of trust in the system on both sides of the spectrum.
What about just the lack of education? Like, I feel like a lot, I mean, and I talk about the internet, I've watched videos where, you know, the youth or the younger generation, the millennials, they didn't know how to tell time. You know, and I don't know if it was just a joke or a skit, but, you know, I feel like the younger generation that is disconnected is not educated on politics, meaning obviously they know that everybody knows what a Democrat is, everybody knows what a Republican, you know, everybody, you know, not, I don't want to say if not everybody knows what bipartisan is, but, you know, a lot of people just don't understand what it is. You know, when it got to that part in history, maybe they skipped it, you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't really understand how government works. Again, you're policed by it, but they don't understand the working. So, how, you know, and I don't, you know, they tell people to come out and go vote, but I haven't really seen a class on what a Democrat is or what a Republican for our community. Now, they do that in other sectors, but we're missing that.
I can understand in some perspective where it's missing in some of our communities, but I also believe sometimes, we're zoomed in so tightly on where we are. And I think when you zoom out a little bit, you're able to see that, wait a minute, there are some communities that are doing this, right? For an example, I've been in Hampton, Virginia, and the politics in Hampton, Virginia, it's uniquely different than where I'm experiencing here in Texas. However, your basic education system still was teaching it.
Yes.
Community leaders and having education to action workshops to talk about some of these things. I've seen it happen, but to your point, I think we need to have more of it. And we spend a lot of time as the older generation with all the information, all the emotional reactions to what's left or what's right. But you have to turn to the next generation and say, what are you experiencing? We have to bring them to the table and really expose them well enough so that they're not just making decisions based upon what mama said.
Exactly.
Right.
Not just making decisions based on those that came
Right.
before you. Not making decisions based on traditionalism.
Oh, yeah.
When you said that, I was reminded of in the Bible when the Pharisees and the Sadducees were coming down on Jesus about healing on the Sabbath.
Right.
And instead of coming up with a whole bunch of scripture type things to say,
Right.
he said to them, why do you not judge for yourself what is righteous? In order to do that, you have to do what you said earlier. You have to back away because it's not because what was right is not politically. What was right is now left, and what was left is now right. And they are in the process of shifting again. So if you align yourself to a party and not to the performance of people, then you blind yourself. We should worry more about being independent to choose rather than aligning ourselves with a particular ideology. I was also reminded of, and this is where you can go ahead and call me old now, but I was reminded of the, and this is really going to tell my age, but there was a TV show Dragnet. The main character.
No, he's 25 years old. He out here acting like he old. He ain't old.
But the main character was Sergeant Joe Friday. Well, later on, they made a movie where Dan Aykroyd was the nephew of Joe Friday, but his name was Joe Friday as well. And Tom Hanks is his partner. And the original Joe Friday, his partner is now the captain. But anyway, the scene that always stuck with me is that movie is that you had this preacher, and on one side, and he's coming down on the pornographers.
Right.
And on the other side, you had this Hugh Hefner type character who's the pornographer, and he's railing against the preacher for taking away his right to do what he wants. And there's a scene where they meet behind the scenes, and they're splitting up the money because they're firing up all these people to fight for a cause, and they don't care about the cause. They care about getting paid. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. We need to be concerned about getting paid, getting the money to flow into our communities, and not so much about aligning ourselves with a cause that, to your point, we may not even understand.
Exactly. The narrative is continuously happening where, just like when you talk about ethnicity and some of the race issues, we use the same narrative. We blame it on somebody else. When politics enter into the conversation, I've learned to think about it this way. Politics will use you well, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
why can't we utilize that same system to meet the needs of our community? That means being able to identify people that are genuinely concerned about the community. And I think it doesn't just point to your ethnicity, but Community people are people that have a footprint in your community. They know the needs economically. And I think we also have to really begin to change how we are communicating about politics, because there's another part of the narrative where you have communities of color that are thriving.
Yes.
They're doing the things that many people are wishing or desiring. So I think we just have to really just look outside of the broken lenses that we see and be able to network with other communities. How is this city doing voting registration? How are we going into our impoverished communities and creating education and action opportunities to teach young people how bills are made? Because, of course, like you mentioned, they're pulling that information out of your classes, out of the school system.
Out of the schools, yes.
Right? And everything is on the internet, and we want information very fast.
Right.
So I just think that, young people have to be a part of the process.
Right.
I've been on plenty of campaigns. I've been in campaigns in Virginia and just being a part of a lot of the process in the state. And you would see the elders, or you'll see some people, and they will say, well, who do I vote for? I'll just vote for anybody that's black. Everybody that's black. I'm going to vote for all the black people. And it's disheartening.
Yes.
Because you are a part of the problem if you don't take the
understand.
time to educate yourself on this candidate.
That's right.
Right.
Right? Go to the forums, get involved in the process. A lot of times we're talking about politics and we don't even attend the city council meetings. We don't even know who our mayor is, but we're voting for president elections.
Right, exactly. And my thing is, and I definitely want to have a general conversation. However, when it comes to voting, politics is the only place that I see where a totally unqualified person can get a job. And I mean, it's you know what I'm saying? Not only totally unqualified, but criminal. And I have to mention the person, our commander in chief. If I'm not telling people who to vote for, but I'm just saying, let's open our eyes. If you were convicted of one felony, how many jobs could you walk into and say, hire me? One felony. How many jobs could you walk into and say, hire me? If I wanted to hire a machinist and somebody walks in with no experience, and I'm not training anyone to be a machinist, what are the odds of that person getting a job? Politics is the only place where we will vote based on, and we got to, like you said, we'll vote based on color of skin. But the other thing that we'll vote for is how popular are you? Do you have some kind of celebrity status that I can say, because our people tend to, by the way we vote, it seems that we tend to feel that if you have established a celebrity status, that you have a broad knowledge of a lot of things. Actors know how to act. Sure enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but does that translate into you being able to parse to handle a $5 million budget? Does that translate into you being able to
Right.
be bipartisan, as you said earlier,
Right.
so that you can left,
Serve the community.
yeah,
Right.
because left and right only exist where there's a middle. If there's not a middle, there's no left or right.
Yeah, and a lot of that is by design, right?
Yes.
The algorithm has been set this way for so many years, where we're conditioned by programming that because I'm ethnically brown or I'm black or whatever you choose to be, I'm supposed to be a Democrat or I'm supposed to be a Republican. So the divide is already embedded in the idea that politics is already divided. You either white or black, women, and so I just believe that the solution has to start with those individuals, going back to the previous conversations. You got to go back home. You got to be able to sit with your young people. But you see the hypocrisy in our communities. When we talk about prison criminals and things like that, we also got to speak to the religious institutions. and speak directly to them, because they're part of the responsibility, where they bring in candidates, they parade the candidates around to the church, even these candidates who don't believe in the same Bible that they believe in, but because, to your point, popularity, I get access. And so I just think we're living in a day and time where this next generation is coming up behind us. They're really looking at things through an honest lens. They're not sitting around here, letting the system play in their faces. You look at what the system has been doing the last couple of months. They've been pushing politically an uprising of cases that are pertaining to people of color. And
Yes.
what does that do? That causes us to get emotional. We're concerned. They're killing all of us. All of these narratives, and now you got young people and people in the community tearing up the community, protesting, marching. It's all a play. But look at this generation today, politically. These young folks ain't out here running around trying to play this game. They're holding people accountable. And I just think that we have to be honest as elders and sit with this next generation and share with them the mistakes that we made. Because to your point, and I'll land, I hope I'm not talking too much.
No,
but to your point, politics is in everything, right? It's in your churches, it's in your homes, wherever you may see it. But when you talk about the systems that are in our communities, I've always wanted to ask candidates, what is your real why? Why are you running for whatever position you're in? I want to understand, where's your footprint in the community? Because a lot of people are running because of what? They're being funded.
Right, that's what I was going to say. That's the biggest thing is, is it a job or is it your passion?
Right. Is it your job or passion? Yeah.
And going back to the celebrity status, I mean, in any aspect, like if a person is well known and well liked, and they feel like, hey, I can push this person forward with these dollars, with support, because now this person is going to go to the people with what I need to get accomplished.
Right,
that's how it's been designed. So we can't change that, right? And so therefore that's why you're going to have multiple people going up. They could be saying obviously some of the same things and some things different, but who is going to be more visible? And now it's so much easier to be visible with social media. You don't really have to have the dollars.
Yeah, you ain't got to have no grassroots footprint.
No, you don't.
Nobody got to know you.
Nobody has to know you. If you know keywords, the time to post, when to post, you can be viral like that. So it doesn't take much now.
Right.
So I feel that and because I'm not seeing it. We see a lot of the old faces. We're needing new blood,
Right.
So it's how do we inspire the younger people to say, okay, you know what, let me go ahead and get in this, because a lot of times, because I can say, growing up, we didn't sit around and have conversations about
politics.
We didn't,
No, we didn't.
And so, and I can say that I didn't really have those conversations with my kids, shame on me. But I think that's kind of where it gets to, where instead of our children learning about this in school, these need to be conversations that we are having at home.
At home.
And not putting an emphasis on what per se that you personally believe in, but giving your kids information and say, you go research this, let me know. Tell me what you come up with. Tell me how you think, how you feel.
And I want to take that a little farther because like you said, shame on you, shame on me. I didn't have those conversations with y'all. But it starts, everything that is good and edifying, both personally and our communities, is going to start at home. But when we have those conversations, and I want to push for this next generation to have those conversations, but when we're having them, we have to remove the glitz and the glamour, because at the end of the day, being a politician is still a job, and it is a public service job, but it is a job. When I was a police officer, I was still it was to protect and serve.
That's right.
It was a service, a public service, but it was a job. And I would, if I was not able to pass psychological tests, if I was not able to pass background tests, if I was not able to effectively handle a firearm, that was another test.
Right.
There are qualifications that jobs have. And at the end of the day, we have to stop voting for people because they're popular. We have to vote for them based on are they or are they not qualified for this job, because it's a job.
Right, and a lot of times we don't know to go on these public sites, review their voting record. Where does those politics fit in with where you are today? You know, a lot of politicians come into our communities and they look like us, but they don't have a footprint in our communities.
Yeah.
They don't know the issues of the day. And so sometimes I just think that the community itself, like when I was in Hampton, and I'm only sharing this because there's another side to the conversation where there was a youth advisory board that I had a privilege to work with. And in this particular city of Hampton, they had opportunities where they were teaching young people about bills and policy and civic engagement. And so we have to bring these things back to our community centers and being able to show young people how bills have become law. When I worked with the Educational Fund to Stop Gun Violence, we had an Education and Action workshop in the community centers. And we'll bring young people in, we'll feed them, but we'll show them the process and get them involved. And so now when you're looking at this process, these young people are interested in what the policies are. They're not just signing a ballot, taking a picture, and going to Facebook and say, I voted.
Right.
Exactly.
It's bigger than the sticker you get.
It's bigger than the sticky that you get.
I like that.
Well,
I like that.
You know what I mean?
I might have to keep that.
I'm sorry, I'm a trademark it. So think about it from the aspect of, okay, you know, debating. A lot of people, I think, shy away from politics because they don't want to debate. They don't know how to debate. How do I have a thought-provoking conversation and prove a point, you know, and not say, you know what, this person, I can't win. You know what I mean? I believe it takes a person with thick skin, regardless of being popular or not. You got to be able to handle what they're going to throw at you, because we've all seen the campaigns. You know, Ken Paxton, he was in Mexico with another woman, and you know, and such and such. You know, he paid somebody for an abortion. I mean, you name it, they pull it out. You know, and so for a person to, you know, and they even pick on the families. You know what I mean? Mother was single and dropped out of school. You know, so how do you know? I don't. And I could be out of touch, but what about debating? You know, you don't hear so much about that anymore. You know, they used to have that in the schools, you know, teaching you how to handle adversity and handle it with words, not with, you know, hey, I'm going to slap you if you say the wrong thing.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I really used to push debate when I taught in schools in California, because debate is the underlying tool of debate is rhetoric. Debate teaches you to effectively speak on a point, whether you believe it or not. That's the whole point of debate is to speak, because they'll assign you a point, and you have to be able to speak on either side.
Yes.
Right.
And what that does is teach you how to. It's supposed to teach you how to effectively bring about compromise, because if you can speak on either point, you're supposed to be able to see the other person's side. But what rhetoric is used for is to manipulate those who don't understand. When they hear rhetoric, they think that it is sincerity when it is just rhetoric. And so we definitely, give me some on that. We definitely need to learn about rhetoric, learn what it is, and it is in all tools. And a shovel's a great tool until I hit somebody in the head with it. Then it becomes a weapon. You know what I'm saying? It's no longer a tool.
It's not a tool no more. It's a
You
weapon.
know, and rhetoric is the same. It's a great tool, but the second I start manipulating you to do my bidding with it, then it is no longer a tool. It becomes a weapon.
Yeah, and I also, and two, I think what's also important, which probably is not the most popular thing to say, but I think we have to really begin to hold our elected officials accountable. And what does that really mean? You know, what does it really mean to hold your elected officials accountable?
But again, it's easier to hold someone accountable when they are qualified to do a job. It is much easier to hold someone accountable.
But let's say they're there though, right?
Well, yes,
a lot of them are there, and they're
They're not qualified. But yes, we have to our system, and you said it earlier, it's kind of been rigged to, when you get in, your job is to make the system keep on functioning. It is not to serve the people. It is to make the system keep on functioning, and it comes down to money and power, which is I'm not going to mention any more names because Teton and I spoke earlier today, and I promised him this was not going to be about, because it's not. It's about being an independent thinker.
Yes.
But I heard someone say that they needed, just in the last couple of days, they needed $300 million to fight communism in the United States. And if you have studied any history, if you go back to McCarthyism, that was the tool that was used to manipulate people until finally he was held accountable. Finally, McCarthy was called in and said, well, where are the communists? Where are they at? You've been screaming this word for years. Where they at?
Where they at?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when he could not produce them, then he fell out of favor. So we have to stop being pawns to buzzwords.
Absolutely.
We have to stop letting people use rhetoric. Use a buzzword to make us jump on their side, because the only side is edifying people. That should be the only side, is edification of people.
And I
Right.
guess that goes back to, the politicians going into church, and maybe, like you said, not believing or just stepping in
it's-
because they want to move a community,
Wanna get
and
the
maybe
votes.
I'm teasing when I say this, but please, they may go in and say, hey, I'm going to help you with your building fund. Every church wants, I'm just teasing when I say that.
But that's a good point.
That's a good point. Very good point. That's a very good point.
Because they say if you
They
have
get carried this building fund.
yeah, because if they say, the ideology is if you have a building, people will come, but you have to have money. And so I really, church is way more instrumental in how they could help the community in politics. Because all politicians definitely go there. I haven't seen any politician make it and didn't go to a church. You know what I mean? So but they say church and state is separate. You're taught that. So how could churches even get involved in helping out with what we're talking about moving forward? Because at this point in time, we have, we're bringing up the problem, but we got to talk about the solutions.
Yes.
And, and I believe one of them would be church. Okay, churches, we need to, Bible study is important. Obviously church on Sunday is so important, but instead of we're bringing these politicians in to talk about what it is that they believe, what is it that I'm going to do in this office, but let's break down again what politics is, so people can understand what these people are saying instead of just saying, I'm going to vote because you're brown.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. I think it's important. The educational portion of it. I recall back in 2015, a particular church had brought in a candidate who was on the other side of the biblical understanding when it comes to abortion, to all of the things that the ministry was preaching against.
Yes.
But yet, because you bring this politician in because of name recognition, the people are confused. Now you're able to say, well, I rub elbows with Senator such and such. And now it becomes about the system and not about the community. And so these are just stopping points. So if you're going to stop at my church, then I'm going to equip the membership about who you are as a candidate. Right? I'm not just going to bring you in here so you can sashay around with your camera and your videographer and you can say, vote for me. And now you done took 20% of the community's vote.
Right.
And that money that you promised to put back in economic development, or the money that you promised to pull back into those impoverished communities, now goes to the other side of town.
Right.
That's a cycle. And it's always somebody that look like us that's sitting behind the corner, getting a side check, getting a kickback. And so we have to be able to call this stuff out, right? And then be an example in our communities of what politics really look like. Community service, encouraging young people to get involved in the community, feed the homeless. Man, me and my wife, man, a couple of years ago, we got involved. I mean, publicize it, but we went downtown Dallas, started feeding the homeless. Then we started learning about the community centers that were downtown Dallas, getting involved. It's not, people are afraid for multiple reasons, but like you mentioned, we're uneducated, right? And we're listening to some of these old heads that sit at these microphones, and all they do are turn into tater people, spectators, agitators, instigators,
I might
and
have to keep that
commentators,
too.
right? They don't want to get their hands dirty.
Right.
All they want to do is sit behind a mic and complain about the black community and talk about what's wrong. The sky is not falling.
Right.
It's not falling. So I just think the narrative has to change, but there's a lot of work to do. And our communities have to look to leadership that don't project their agendas.
Right.
And what are their agendas? I want to be great. I want to be a great wonder. Say my name. I want to look nice. I want to represent the people. I want to beat people over the head because this is what I believe. No, what are your politics?
Right.
Why are you here? When did I see you at the community kickoff? Did I see you who was going, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
there's a level of accountability, and I think that I just truly believe in this next generation of young people that they're going to use their voices. I believe they're going to be started looking at this voting system, and I think Babylon is falling in every area. The lies, the misinformation, all of the stuff that's happening across this world is hitting everybody, even in your personal life. So I just think that integrity, getting back to morals, getting back to what's righteous.
Right.
Which is very important. So I have a question, just because it just popped in my mind. So let's say, you need an attorney for whatever the reason, and you need that attorney to represent you civilly.
Right.
Let's say you're a Democrat and that attorney is a Republican. Would that matter?
Is your reason why you need a lawyer is because you're a Democrat?
I'm just
No, that's a rhetorical question. Are you thinking politics because you done got in a car accident and because this lawyer is a Caucasian man and who's a Republican? Stop playing in our face, man.
Right, but that's
you
what I'm saying.
need a service.
Right. You need a service, but I'm just saying you have people who.
It's something is wrong with the mindset. And like I said, Jay, the community that we're talking about and how it needs to be established starts between our ears. Having a sound mind, we need to heal.
Right.
We're so busy moving around trying to be a part of everything, and we're broken
and not support you.
Right. You're right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying earlier. Let go of this. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. Be a human.
And what are the issues
For
of my
God's
community?
sake, be
How do I get
a
involved?
human.
But a lot of people are not looking
so
at it
that you
way.
so that you can assess for yourself the qualifications of this person. If they're going to bring someone into the church, okay, after you've told me what you intend to do, what qualifies you to do it? Because if you don't have the qualifications, you're not going to get the job done.
Yeah, I want to trust and verify.
Right. So let's, I politics is that's, to me, that's the main reason it is broken. It was because it's the only career, because it is, you hear that term all the time, career politician.
Yeah.
It's the only career where you can be totally unqualified to edify the lives of the people that you serve. Totally unqualified to bring resources, be they education, be they finances, be they healthcare, into the community. Totally unqualified. But based on how you are on someone, now the image consultant that put you there, they're qualified to be an image consultant. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're qualified to be that image consultant. But are you qualified to do the things that you tell me that you are going to do? I don't know if you remember Stevie Wonder's song "Big Brother." They call me Big Brother. You said that you got. I see you all on the telly. But children are dying every day. But I see you on the telly. You know what I'm saying? So what is going to? But see, education is the dangerous thing, and that's where, well, it is a beautiful thing, but again, it becomes. I don't want to say education becomes a weapon, but it is perceived as a weapon to those that know that once you are educated, you cannot be led around by your nose. You know what I'm saying?
Because the answer to the questions are in books, but people have got to take the time to
Yeah.
read them. And I mean, so what is next? I mean, what is it that we're having this conversation? I mean, obviously we got 2 more years, right, to the next big election, right? It's 2 more years left.
Yeah. Well, I think the answer is what Teton said earlier: is get involved locally, because the administration at large is attacking state and local governments. That's what they're doing. The administration, I'm not going to say no, the administration just sent out letters to all 50 states and the possessions of the United States, threatening them with civil and even criminal action if they did not turn over the voter rolls of people that have people's private information. So, but the way to stop that is for local governments to be prepared, to understand what the fight is, what the real enemy. I don't want to say what the real enemy is. The real enemy is ignorance to the process. The real enemy is lack of involvement.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of this stuff there's networks of people. People are being handpicked. They're being groomed for positions, and so a lot of times people will assume that this person just showed up, but they've been groomed and moved into places. So what I think is a great solution, as we mentioned, being able to get into our communities, giving young people an opportunity to learn about local politics. Let's start locally, right?
Yes.
Being able to serve in your community, whatever that may look like, and any movement, I believe, and what we have observed throughout history, started with young people. I watched my father run campaigns, and in a couple of his campaigns and some other campaigns, but one particular campaign in 2010, I watched him gather students from the university that was in government classes and that was in social science classes, and they came and they learned the part of what the city council and all this stuff, and you had a movement of young people, and out of that birth other young people who are now working at state level. Right. Assistants to delegates and things like that. So being able to get young people exposed to this, but also I think the education portion is very important, because a lot of the education that we are receiving is misinformation.
Yes.
Right? And we spend a lot of time, screaming at the kettle. We obviously know that the kettle is black.
Yes.
We know that it is black. So what are you going to do about it? The idea is to turn the light on. Look at yourself. What have you contributed to your community? What have you contributed for yourself? Do you care about yourself? Because a lot of times we're dealing with a lot of stuff in our communities. There's a lot of trauma that happens. There's a lot of things that happen in the middle class communities.
Yes.
And the only time they're called upon or they're reached out to for services is that phone call. Who you voting for? I got a campaign. Man, listen, man.
Get the text.
In DeSoto, I'm sorry. But you have a city council and a community of people that look like each other, right?
Right.
Why is there so much dysfunction? I read an article. The city blames the citizens on the economic development issues. Well, you make policy.
Right.
So why is it the citizens' fault because of the commentary on the internet? So now the internet is a third party now. Right?
Yeah.
And and then the whole lifetime, politicians, I think, it's necessary, but sometimes I think after 3 generations, and you watch generations change, and young people come in and rotate, and you still there with them 1970 ideas.
Right.
You still there with them 1990 ideas. Man, you need to go on somewhere and get somewhere and sit down, go to bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, economic development is a huge thing. All these communities, obviously, we need jobs. We need jobs so people can make money, so they can feed their families, and
we need more than just smoke shops,
right? And so that's
and chicken shops,
right? Because what happens is that if we were in, we'll counter it instead of DeSoto, we'll mention Plano, right? Their economic development is huge. They bring in corporations, and they provide these corporations huge tax cuts So therefore, obviously they come in, they bring the jobs and the property taxes, or it continues a well-oiled machine. These smaller areas are not getting corporations to come in. People in DeSoto are commuting to Plano. People in DeSoto are commuting to Richardson, because it's the small businesses. They make it very hard, for people to come into those areas. So again, I guess that goes back to who's sitting there,
Yeah, I mean, it's
the permits,
you can't blame it on white people no more.
No,
Some of this stuff that we're happening in our communities, we keep trying to find somebody to blame. And it's the citizens who voted you in.
Right.
It's the citizens who didn't vote. And it's the
Exactly.
citizens who didn't get involved.
Right.
And it's the real question is, why are you here representing my community if you only here to take photo ops with babies and be at events and collect a little stipend?
right.
What is that for you? And so these kind of conversations got to be had. We got to start really addressing the issues and really putting people in place that can bring solutions and bring communities together. But the community don't come together until you got a sound mind, man. I'm not talking about perfection. We got
No.
some bad-minded folks get with a lot of money.
Yes, with a lot of money and not realizing that ultimately what happens to one of us is going to happen to all of us.
To all of us.
And
Right.
and because we are so far removed from that ultimate truth, that we get pigeonholed into fighting for someone's ideology that is only concerned about holding on to a job to a job that they are doing
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah.
That they are doing badly. And I like that you mentioned earlier accountability, because there are, and I think I'm gonna have to mention his name only because I'm doing good though. I'm doing pretty good.
You're doing well.
Maybe do initials. Just do initials.
Yeah, well, we can do initials, but if I'm gonna say it's TC, Top Cat. Remember the cartoon? I'm gonna say TC. But if you stand up on a camera and you say, "This is what I'm fighting for, and this is why these things are important to this community, and this is why these other people should not be given this office because they're not fighting for the things that are important to you," and someone else comes along and not only does not represent those things, but insults you, insults your family, calls your wife and your kids names. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about vulgar names. And you turn around within 12 months of an election and you say, "This is why I support this person that didn't stand for any of the values I told you I stood for when you elected me." That called my wife and my children pigs and all kind of other things. How do we forget those things? I guess that's the question. How do we forget that this person just sold the ideology that he convinced his constituents that he was going to represent? He sold them to be in the graces of the person that's more popular. And we seem to forget that because we are so enamored with the celebrity of this person.
Well, I want to say I call it, we're always remembered by our last deed. So, and I think that being said makes politics as it's such, you're remembered by your last deed. So if you did something good for one person, that one person tells you, tells everybody that's what you're remembered by, versus maybe all the things that you may have missed. So that's how that's.
Yeah, and a politician can't do it by themselves. It takes a
Right.
multitude of people. It takes the community. And so if you coming in with a campaign idea, then that idea should be already activated in you. You don't just show up in the community at an event and say, "This is what I want to do." You should be already in motion if you are
But
for the people.
Exactly. But because TC was not in motion, he just said, "These are the things that I represented," without any motion. It was easy for him to change to something else because nothing had to be undone, because nothing was done.
I think more women should be getting involved in politics. I'm sorry.
I mean, it should. It should.
But it's hard.
should.
But it should. But
They should.
you know, but again, it takes people to get behind them to support. So, with that being said, it's
we
about
have to-
that time. We have to continue.
Well, I hope I didn't get y'all in trouble.
Yeah,
course not.
not at all. We have had a very general conversation, and my daughter has gently slapped me on the arm. but yeah, we don't have to go home. But the clock on the wall says we do have to get the hell out of here. So, I want to thank the TikTok family, the Facebook family. I want to thank StreamYard. I want to thank family in the back that came out to hang with us. Yeah, I want to thank y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Young millennials.
I want to thank Teton for coming out and hanging
Yes, sir.
with us,
Yes,
man.
sir.
And
Yes, sir.
because
See,
this brother always has just an
Always.
intelligent, thoughtful conversation
Yes.
to bring us, and I value his intelligence and his attitude,
Yes.
and I definitely want to keep doing this, and so we're going to talk about that off camera. But until next time, we will be back. Same facts time, same facts channel. And until then,
Hey,
Peace.
love yourself, right? Why you gotta love yourself?
Oh man, I better love myself. I
So you
can't
can
love myself.
yourself-
I don't love nobody
Nobody else.
else.
There you go.
There you go. Huh?
Yes.
so you can love somebody else. We'll
Yes.
see y'all next week. Take care.
We're out.
Peace.
Hey, this is Charlie,
This is JR.
host of Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR, broadcasting live each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. from Fishbowl Studios.
Log on to hear us speaking the facts on current events, family, and finances.
So be sure to log on each week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to catch Speaking the Facts with Charlie and JR.
Tune in.
Join Selah, host of Selah Speaks podcast, broadcast